Hello everyone, this is Zill Artsy back again with the final characterizations of the 9 Christmas reindeer. I understand that this is a bit late and I apologize for that. Due to the busy holidays, I haven't been keeping up as well as I should have. So next up on the list is Vixen. Now, since Vixen is a word tending to mean a female fox, for this Christmas reindeer's design, I started to lean heavily into a fox's color palette and a fox's uh, traits by darkening her legs and the tips of her tail and her ears. Um, Now, I imagine, much like a fox for her character, it seems very on the surface level that she's very vain and enjoys her beauty. But at the same time, I imagine that also, like a fox, she has this playful trickster side to her, and that she can have a playful and fun loving demeanor underneath the surface. Um, and I imagine that becomes more prevalent after Rudolph shows up. Um, I also gave her this soft little neck floof around her neck, sort of like to look like a boa, like a lady's boa or shawl or shrug. Just something to add a bit more elegance to her character and also be consistent as far as like my style for these reindeer. I know that it isn't necessarily particularly accurate, um, but at the same time, I think it kind of relates to like the design so far. Um, it relates to the old stop motion animation of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and at the same time, these are mythical flying reindeer, not necessarily the real reindeer or caribou that we have in this world. So I wanted to make them seem a little bit more ethereal um, by making them sort of lanky and very delicate in their appearance, at least for some of their designs, to kind of break it up and make it seem that these are actually characters and not just reflections of reality, though there is a hint of that in some of the designs. Next up is Comet. Now, right away, I knew that I wanted to make his fur white. Now, let me explain. Um, I decided, since white fur is very reflective, um, especially with creatures like polar bears and like Arctic foxes, their fur absorbs light or reflects light. So I thought, because of his name and very reflective white fur, I thought that his fur might reflect like the city lights as he's flying overhead, making him look a bit like a comet, sort of reflecting the orange and yellow lights, sort of giving him a fiery appearance as he flies over the cities in the night sky, which I thought would be very suitable for his character. Um, his character, I think, would be very brash and reckless, sort of like a flying comet. Just have this excitable demeanor and just enjoy like dive bombing out of the sky because he is an adrenaline junkie. I decided to give him some soft shading, which normally I don't do for the other reindeer, but just to break up his palette a bit and show off that white fur and give it some depth, I gave it some blue shading. Next up is Cupid. Now, I lost the footage for the coloring part, but I did manage to record some footage for some of the sketches I was practicing for some of the character designs. I imagined him to be a very suave fellow, along with his to go along with his name, and for his antlers, I picture them from a certain angle to sort of form like a heart shape to also kind of match with his name. Along with the Cupid-esque theme, I gave him some cherry red fur and some auburn, like sort of K-pop cut, K-pop boy haircut on top of his head, and just wanted to make him a very suave, very heartbreaker sort of character. Um, I also included an angel wing pin on his harness just to really lean into that Cupid aesthetic. And I didn't do it for the other reindeer, but for from here on outward, I decided to give certain reindeer pins on their harnesses as to reflect their character, or um, I figure it might also reflect some of their like accomplishments, perhaps in some way or another. It's just an idea, but I was tossing it around, and that is Cupid. Next up is Donner. Um, and I had a little bit of trouble with him at first because I didn't know what Donner meant or what it was. I just wasn't sure at first. But then I found out that in German, Donner means thunder. So I'm like, oh, and I decided to lean into this very strong, very stoic character. But when he does decide to speak, I imagine his voice being very loud and sudden, like a thunderclap. But I gave him a very broad body just to sort of represent that like inner strength that maybe produces such a big, deep, booming voice. I gave him darker fur to sort of represent a storm cloud. And for his harness, I decided to give him a cloud shaped pin. Um, Maybe he accomplished some feat of strength or something in the past and earned the pin, or maybe it's just there to emphasize his name. Who knows? But that is pretty much Donner. Well, I don't think he's necessarily mean. I definitely think that he is a very intimidating character. So next up is Blitzen, and I learned that this name Blitzen also refers to lightning. So imagine that he and Donner tend to be good friends, or maybe good rivals because of their names. Um, and while Donner is strong and beefed up, I imagine that Blitzen is a bit sleeker, a bit skinnier, um, and likes to race the other reindeer to prove how fast he is because of his name. And I gave him sort of a mohawk cut, sort of to represent a rock star. Um, just to sort of lean into, like I remember 80s bands having a lot of lightning aesthetics. So I imagine that he would probably have a weird haircut like that. His mane sort of does kind of remind me a bit of a mullet, though that was unintentional, believe it or not. And I realized that part of this harness looks like it's going through his mohawk. Just considered another quirk, I guess. I also decided to give him a lightning pin because I imagine that if Donner somehow managed to earn a pin, then you bet your boots that Blitzen found a way to earn a pin of some kind, some award or whatever. Um, but I imagine that Blitzen tends to be a bit more brash than Donner and just has a very go get 'em attitude. Next up, we have the deer himself, Rudolph. Now, Rudolph, I wanted him to seem a bit like he's still young, like he's still growing, and he's trying to live up to the name or the legacy that he um, unintentionally got just because of his red nose. And I wanted his harness to seem like it's a little loose, like he still has some growing to do, and he has some big shoes or big roles to fill, being the leader of the sleigh team. Um, I gave him velveted antlers to sort of be like a young buck or a young elk. I've seen them have velvet over their antlers while they're still growing, and I decided to emphasize that a little bit. Gave him a little cell shaded red nose, and to show off his award and accomplishment, or he wears this bright medallion over his harness, which I imagine that Santa gave to him or something like that, and solidifying his achievement and his accomplishment, along with his newfound place in the sleigh team or herd, I guess. But yeah, I imagine him to be kind of naive, very playful, but still willing and still a brave young character. Um, and enjoying the newfound friends that he has in this sleigh team. And there they are all together. I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas and a happy New Year. Thank you.